there's so many different things going on in your body that you're not aware of. So your body is perfectly capable of sleeping and waking at the right times. You've just got to feed it the right ingredients, light, dark, eating at the right times, not having too much coffee or alcohol. But apart from that, your body knows how to do it. So anything outside of that that's stopping you from sleeping will be your mind, which is easily retrained or reprogrammed, if you like, refocused to get better sleep.
Hello and welcome back to another week and another episode of the Plant Fueled Podcast with me, your host and plant-based nutritionist, Callum Weir. Thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode as we take a deep dive into our covers and learn the science surrounding sleep. That was Samantha Adlington, a sleep nutrition coach who is here on a mission to help as many people as possible take control of their sleep and feel better, because everybody deserves to experience a good sleep. Me and Sam take a journey into the sleeping world to discuss the benefits of sleep to our bodies, the cycles of sleep, the knowledge surrounding how and when we sleep, the truths and misconceptions with an all-round myth-busting session on sleep. We focus on why we shouldn't rely on rituals, how we need to set up a good sleep environment and practice good sleep hygiene to send us off for those precious and well-deserved Z's. This episode is definitely an eye-opener on how we should look at and prioritize our sleep. So let's sit back and delve right in. Samantha, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, and absolutely cannot wait to delve into the world of sleep nutrition with you.
Hi, Callum. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
See, when we learn about nutrition, or sleep nutrition as such, not even sleep nutrition, just nutrition in general, I think this goes with all sectors in this kind of field. When you go into like a doctor or a dietitian, sleep quality and sleep hygiene and the subject of sleep is very quickly passed over completely. There isn't much kind of talk surrounding sleep in any way, shape or form. And obviously when you go online, you Google whatever, there's going to be so many like tips and tricks from TikTok and all sorts of it's kind of a minefield. And then you'll get it does get ridiculous, because you will get all these tricks that will hopefully help you doze off. There's all these different apps, and obviously when people do have a bad night's sleep, for instance, or have countless sleepless nights, they just go, or which can obviously turn into insomnia, that most people will go seek help from normally a doctor, and they'll be prescribed a pill that will hopefully knock them out for the night. Where of course this isn't your stance at all on it, is it? It's you're a qualified sleep coach and of course the founder of Sleep Soundly.
Yeah, that's right. There's so much out there these days. There's the apps, there's the different rituals, there's different foods that are suggesting you have, or different supplements. Everyone's got different ideas about how you can fall asleep. And I guess a lot of these ideas come from just trial and tested experiences. Like, oh yeah, I tried this and it worked for me. Maybe it'll work for you. But yeah, there's a lot of media surrounding sleep, I think recently more so than there has been before, but it's still a massively understudied area in terms of health. Doctors in the UK don't get much education on sleep, science of sleep and insomnia, if you like, during their medical years, during their medical training years. It's minimal. It might even be half a day or something they learn.
That's exactly the same with nutrition as well. I think it's around 17 hours in like 7 years.
I know it's amazing, isn't it? I guess that's why we've got all these subspecialities, like you've got nutritionists or dietitians, in the hospital, but still, it's basic health, nutrition and sleep, so basic, but not many people know about it. I mean, everyone's getting excited about it these days, which is why you've got all these apps going around. But no, my approach is more natural. It's with the mind. I don't encourage rituals and relying on certain supplements or or rituals basically to fall asleep. It's if you can train your mind and your association with your bed or bedroom, if you're having problems sleeping, then you'll be sleeping, better than you have before. And in terms of, normal sleepers who don't have problems, there are all sorts of things you can do to enhance it. And that just comes down to basic sleep hygiene, which is anything from when you drink coffee to how much your room's lit up. Basic stuff that doesn't require money to be spent or massive habits to change. And it's all very simple stuff, and it works very well.
How do you feel about those meditation apps at the moment? But you get those, I think it's like Headspace and Calm. I know I've downloaded Headspace in the past years ago to kind of get a little meditation, see what it was all about, and it did work some of the time, but not all of the time. You kind of get used to it after it, and
Mhm.
and then it's kind of someone is just talking to you, someone is just kind of serenading you to sleep, if anything.
Yes, I mean those apps are great. I mean meditation, the Calm app and the Headspace app, definitely recommend them. They're really great. But I mean, relying on an external source for sleep is where sometimes things can go wrong if you're having problems. However, yeah, they are good for you if you do them at the right time. If you do them at the wrong time, i.e., just before bed, and you are having problems sleeping generally, then what you're going to do is you're going to reduce your sleep pressure. You're going to dampen it. It's like having a sandwich before dinner. You wouldn't do that. You would have your sandwich at lunchtime and then your dinner at dinner time. But napping or anything like meditation, which puts you into a kind of you're still conscious but semi-conscious state, you're dampening your sleep pressure. So when you do go to bed, because you've had to, I don't know, move location, or I don't know, thoughts come in, then your sleep pressure is already dampened. So the effort to get to sleep is much more.
Yeah, I always do worry because I still have Headspace on my phone, but obviously before I go to bed, if I was to put it on, and then I kind of worry a slight bit about the blue light that you get, because obviously the blue light can really kind of screw with how you sleep. And obviously that's one of the things that does keep people up at night. And if I'm searching for 10-15 minutes for the perfect sleep cast, is that affecting me in any way? I'm assuming it is affecting, because obviously, like, an hour before I normally try to get off my phone, so I'm not kind of I'm not attached to it, just to kind of give myself that kind of downtime where I'm
Mm-hmm.
away from it, and then kind of getting on it 15 minutes before bed um, to find this. Does that then affect what's going on in your brain?
Um, well, I mean, depends on how long you are searching for that
Hmm.
perfect sleep cast, really. I mean, a couple of seconds to press play is not going to do much difference, because what this artificial lighting does is it suppresses the release of melatonin. So, as I say, little light here and there. I mean, we can't avoid it with the society we live in. We have lights everywhere, but it's just really how much and how long and how intense. So obviously, your phone is going to be right up against your face pretty much, and it's going to be quite an intense light unless you've obviously dimmed it. So if you really want to use a sleep cast before you go to bed, maybe an hour before you go to bed, set it up ready. You've chosen it
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you're in your wakeful space, and then only when you get into your sleepful space do you actually press play, and you only looked at the screen for a second and then you set it down. But I mean, sleep hygiene is definitely good for better sleep, but it's not the be all and end all for getting yourself sleeping better if you're having sleeping problems which are far beyond sleep hygiene.
What are the reasons like people have bad night's sleep? Because you hear various different reasons from everybody, and everybody will come out with something new, and obviously everybody has their own experiences of how they sleep. It's not like a one size fits all thing with sleep. But like, do you get like a main top five? Not even top five, I'd say, just the kind of reasons people have a bad night's sleep.
Um, well, there's bad night's sleep, and then I guess there's not being able to sleep. And I guess it depends if you've got insomnia, either acutely or chronically, or you don't suffer with insomnia and you've just had a bad night here and there. I mean, I guess those bad nights can be anything from how stressful your day was, So you could have a lot of things playing on your mind, or you might have something exciting the next day or something you're worried about the next day. So those are all mind things. And then everything else could be, it could be sleep hygiene. You had coffee at the wrong time, you did intense exercise just before you went to bed, you had a heavy meal, um, or maybe you napped in the afternoon. That could contribute to a bad night's sleep. Um, yeah, there's loads of things. It could be environmental, it could be coming from outside, it could be too much light, too much noise, it could be alcohol. There's so many different factors that can influence your sleep. We're quite sensitive beings. But sadly, we've made this environment for ourselves because we live in a 24-hour society. So it's about doing the best you can with what you've got available to you. But little tweaks here and there can make all the difference.
I do notice if I have a week or a few days where I do consume, let's say, some kind of junk food, that my sleep routine does start to get very, very screwed up. So I can kind of lay there tossing for hours. And this is obviously why I downloaded Headspace at first, to see if that would just knock me out. But obviously this will affect the next day and how motivated I am, how much work gets done, if I exercise, if but is there a common denominator between like junk food and sleeping patterns? Because of course, as we know, in some foods there's items on the back of like thing, the packaging, that, well, the list goes on and on and on with some packaging. Um, and obviously most of us are very unaware of what these foods, what these chemicals, what these E numbers are, and obviously we probably shouldn't be consuming half of them. But we don't question it as a society. We never question the back of food packaging. It's
No.
just kind of, it's there. Oh, if it's there, it should be okay to eat. But is
Yeah.
there a common denominator between junk food, not just junk food, etc., but just
Processed
foods
food.
that we know aren't great for our health?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're not great for our health. So, I mean, it may be disrupting. I mean, this is probably more your area than mine, disrupting, I don't know, salt levels.
Mhm.
Um, might need to go to the toilet more, or maybe you're more thirsty, things like that. But from my perspective, it's more that it's a vicious circle, really, because sleep affects your food. So if you're sleep deprived, you haven't had the required amount of hours sleep you need to restore your body, then your hormone levels will be disrupted, including those that are in charge of how full you feel and how hungry you are. So, if your hormone levels, so your leptin and your ghrelin, are affected by a bad night's sleep, then the next day you're going to be craving carbohydrates, sugars, fats, fast energy. So, it's more a case of, excuse the pun, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? The bad night's sleep can affect your appetite the next day, which in turn then affects your sleep because you've eaten heavy carbohydrates, you've got all the fats, all the salts, you might need more fluids, you get up in the night. And then the next day you've had a bad night's sleep, so you crave more carbohydrates, fats, sugars, things like that. So there are huge links between sleep deprivation and diabetes, because your insulin levels are going to be affected too.
We would say that obviously when I wake up after a bad night's sleep, the last thing I want to be doing is cooking a nutritious meal. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd go for the quickest thing possible, which
Mm-hmm.
obviously when it's quick and easy, we we
It's
we
normally
know
unhealthy.
it's not going to be great.
Yeah.
Just kind of like you can pick up those kind of like microwave breakfast burritos. As much as I stay away from them, there has been times where I've had things like that, or going to,
Yeah.
like, quick and easy, if you're driving past like a Starbucks, pick up something there and be like, you know what, this will be fine just for today. But obviously on that cycle that you're on, this then leads to like lunchtime being like, oh, I've already had that, it's fine, I can, one more thing won't hurt. And
Yeah.
then by the time
Gonna
it's
wake
dinner,
up
you've
for it.
already screwed up a lot. You
Yeah.
screwed up a hell of a lot. And you're like,
I
oh,
might
it's
as well
fine.
just carry on.
Tomorrow it'll be fine. And then
Yeah.
it's an ongoing cycle and it will carry
Yeah.
on. And I've got into ruts like this where it can just disrupt a whole entire week. And I'm like, it gets to the end, I'm like, what am I doing? Like where has this come from? And it does stem from just feeling overtired, and not feeling in the mood to cook.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Well, your energy levels are depleted, and your focus is affected, your concentration, you know. memory consolidation, all of these things, repair of your body, your mind restoration, everything is out of sync, and
Mm.
not as it should be. So yeah, I guess your choices are easily swayed,
Yeah.
especially when it's the case for carbohydrates, because we all love them.
Mm. I think like when we all think of sleep, we all kind of know we're meant to have like a certain amount. We know it's good for us. Some people live on very little, but the importance of sleep altogether, I don't think the majority of the public or know the actual importance of it. It's just something we do. It's just something
Yes.
we kind of go to bed, wake up. Some people love it, some people hate it,
Yeah.
but nobody really knows the importance apart from kind of what we learn in school, which is very, very little. You're kind of like, oh, you're meant to sleep maybe 8, 9 hours a night, but they never go into the importance. So, what
No.
would you say is the importance of sleep?
Well, sleep affects so many parts of your body. It affects your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, um, restoration and repair, memory consolidation, focus, energy levels, hormone balance, so many things. And all of those benefits come through sleep in different stages. So most people have heard of REM and non-REM, so rapid eye movement and non-rapid eye movement, and they all give different things. So REM is obviously your dream sleep, so that takes up about 25% of your night, and that will be where your long-term memory is consolidated and focus. And then you've got your non-REM, where you've got actually 4 levels of non-REM. So you've got non-REM 1, so that's your really, really light sleep. And then you've got non-REM 2, which is your transitional stage. So you're going from kind of a semi-conscious sleep into your deeper sleep, which is stages 3 and 4, which we group together. And that will be growth hormone release, physical restoration, repair, immobility, all of those things that our body needs to repair itself. So the REM is mostly for the mind, and then the non-REM is mostly for the body. But you don't just have a block of REM and then a block of non-REM, or non-REM and then REM. There are 5 cycles we traditionally go through in a night. Each cycle is about 90 minutes, but no 2 cycles look the same. So the first cycle of sleep is mostly non-REM. So you'll go from your lighter stages of non-REM 1, 2 down to your 3 and 4. And then you come up through 2 and then into REM, your dream sleep, and you have a brief REM episode before diving back down into a deeper sleep again, a longer segment of non-REM, like in the first part of the first cycle. And then you come back up into REM, and then this time your REM gets slightly bigger. And then instead of going back down to the deeper levels of sleep, you only hit about level 2 of non-REM. And then you come back up and you've got a bigger stage of REM, and then you've got one more final non-REM 2, and before you come up into REM again, and then out of your sleep. I believe that was 5 cycles. But as you can see from that description, each cycle is different, and each cycle gives you different things you need for physical, mental, emotional health. So you shouldn't just be getting 4 or 5 hours sleep, because you're only going to get some of that benefit. It is recommended you get 5 cycles of 90 minutes, that's 7.5 hours. The odd night of 4 cycles, which is 6 hours, is okay, but you should be aiming for 7.5. So that's where the whole 8-hour thing comes from. So it's anywhere between 7.5 and 9. Everyone's different. Some people feel like they need 9 hours, which would be 6 cycles.
I
But
think
yeah.
on a regular basis, I think I'm around 8 to 8.5. Well, this is what the my watch tells me anyway. I'm not too sure how accurate these things are. Um,
Uh,
on how
what?
accurate they are with, but they do tell you like your REM cycle, whether or not it actually knows what's happening, um, is very different. But I know I probably get around, I'd say 8 to 8.5 hours sleep. Um,
That's pretty good. Yeah. I mean, the watches, though. I mean, you brought up the watches. I mean, people do rely on these devices, and I think, I mean, I've got an app on my phone, but I use it purely just to set an alarm with, because I like the the wake up phase on it. But that's purely all I use it for, because these apps and these watches, I mean, they go by, they pick up sound and movement. So it determines, I imagine, that if you're moving around, you're awake. And if you're very still, then you're sleeping. And then I think I think it further divides it into REM and non-REM. But the thing is, though, is you can be in non-REM and still moving around, but it might detect you as REM. Or you could be staying there, laying in bed, super still for an hour, trying to get to sleep and failing, but it might record you as being in non-REM because you're perfectly still. So I think, although these apps are okay, I don't think they should be relied on to tell you how much sleep you've had and how much of it was deep sleep, because I think people worry too much about how much deep sleep they're supposed to have. And it's like 12% of the night, I think, you have non-REM. We'll check that figure in a second. I'm sure it's 12% of the night is non-REM, or the deep stages of non-REM. So if you've got an app that you're waking up to telling you that you've only had an hour of non-REM, or you've only had 10% non-REM or something, that feels like a really low number. And if you believe that you have to have loads of non-REM in order to not feel tired, and you're suddenly told that you've only had an hour, you're going to think, well, I'm going to be tired. And then guess what happens? You're tired because you believe it. But I think it's important to know that non-REM is, or the deeper stages of non-REM is quite a small segment of the night. So these apps, although they're telling you possibly correct information, it might not be helpful. So it creates the worried well, I think, these apps. You decide how good your sleep is. Sleep is subjective. It's not, it can only really be objectively measured in a sleep lab with all the dots all over your head, you know, the polysomnography. So ultimately you decide how tired or sleepy you are when you wake up in the morning. Don't rely on an app. That's what I say.
See, that's the thing. I learned very, very quickly after buying this watch that I should not be relying on it whatsoever, because there was times when it was telling me I had quite a few hours sleep. When it was one of those nights where you're tossing, you're turning, you're laying there for going on hours and hours, and you know you're still awake. It's like you kind of look over at the clock next to you, and it's now 2 a.m. and you got into bed at 9, and you just can't get to sleep. And then it's telling me that I've had like however many hours. I'm like, well, I know you're lying.
Exactly.
So I learned very quickly not to rely on those whatsoever.
Excellent.
But I think when it does come to nutrition and sleep, see, we don't really get taught much about the sleep or sleep nutrition at all. And obviously I vouch for an all-round healthy diet, and for everybody should be consuming a healthier diet. Obviously allowing the best environments for all our kind of inner systems to thrive in. So whatever organ that is, whatever nervous system, whatever sleep system. And of course, there are certain foods that contain melatonin. So obviously, as far as I know, a few of them are like tart cherries or tart cherry juice, nuts, goji berries. I think I've heard that olives may be maybe high in melatonin. I have no idea. I've never actually looked at the melatonin levels, because it's hard to kind of get that information. It's not it's not something that's on the back of a packaging. It's not something you can easily look up. And when it comes to food, like let's say goji berries or tart cherries, how beneficial are those to actually sleep? Can they? I'm assuming they're not I'm assuming we can't just take tart cherry juice before sleep and you are knocked out for the night. I assume it does not work like that. But is there any kind of correlation between the two?
I mean, all foods, as you know, provide different nutrition values, and they give you so many benefits. So yeah, there are foods out there that definitely contain higher amounts of melatonin than others. And then there's some recommendations out there that I've come across where they suggest drinking tart cherry juice, as you said. I looked this up, and there's quite a few studies out there they've done where they've experimented with drinking a certain amount of tart cherry juice, like 30 mils or something. But the amounts of melatonin you need in a supplement, say, is between 0.5 milligrams and 3 milligrams. And then, but the question then becomes, when do you take it? Because is it 3 milligrams a day, or is it 3 milligrams just before bed? So they experimented with this. But the thing is tart cherry juice has something like 0.02 something. It's a small amount of micrograms. That's micrograms, that's not milligrams. So you'd need, I haven't done the calculation, but you'd need a lot of tart cherry juice for it to hit the amount of melatonin you need that's recommended for sleep. So anyway, so they did this experiment, but the thing is with the control group and the group that was drinking the tart cherry juice, they did sleep better. But tart cherry juice has other things in it which might be beneficial for sleep. So it's still, and then there are other studies where no difference was made at all. So I think the jury's still out on tart cherry juice. If you are taking tart cherry juice and it does work well for you, keep doing it. There's something there that's working. It's not for everyone, and it's still not scientifically proven. I mean, the same is for pistachios and almonds. I mean, you'd need 4.5 kilograms of pistachios, I worked out, to get the required amount of melatonin that would be the same as a supplement. And almonds, actually, you don't need too many. I think it's just a handful of almonds. But I mean, these things I take with a pinch of salt, excuse the pun, because I believe in not relying on rituals to help you sleep. I mean, if you like to eat these things before bed, great, and they work for you, great. But I think relying on a ritual, just like relying on a watch to either tell you how much sleep you've had, or relying on a ritual that apparently guarantees better sleep, if one day you're without that ritual, you haven't got your bag of almonds and you haven't got your 4.5 kilos of pistachios and your 10 bottles of cherry juice, then if you haven't got them, then you're going to not sleep. What are you going to do? So I think it's best to train your mind in such a way that it becomes effortless, just like breathing. I think that's the best way to get the best sleep is to not rely on external sources. So
Thing, because I've seen so many articles online. So obviously I've looked up bits and pieces to kind of add into my own nutrition program itself when it came to sleep. But when it comes, it's a minefield, especially when it comes to nutrition. And I wasn't too sure like how guaranteed any of these things were actually to help. Because obviously, I guess it really depends on the person's circumstances. We could put everything down to nutrition, but we don't know obviously the individual circumstances of that everyday life, such as stress, workload, kids. And it's probably not to say that these things can't help, but if you've got a lifestyle that is very hectic, very stressful, that's going to be helping to create these sleepless nights where things such as tart cherry juice, things such as goji berries or whatever food you're using, that's not gonna help you, because that tart cherry juice isn't gonna phase out your kids. It's not gonna de-stress your workload.
exactly.
It's still gonna be there.
Yeah, the mind is very, very powerful, and it doesn't matter how tired you are, how sleep deprived you are, or how many almonds you've eaten, that the mind will always win. So I think because the mind is yours, you own it, it's not external. I think that's the best thing you can train to get better sleep. It's totally within your control, and with the right education and the right knowledge around how to change your perception of your sleeping environment, it can change your life if you use it properly.
So when it does come to sleeping patterns, because obviously each individual person has a very different sleeping pattern. I know if I go out on a night and I come back late night, let's say 2 a.m, my sleeping pattern for the rest of the day or the rest of the night and the nights afterwards is very all over the place. It's the same as if I end up having a nap throughout the day. I could do something like half an hour and I'm not sleeping at night time. So is there an actual beneficial way to kind of improve our sleeping patterns? Because some people have just a bad sleeping pattern in general. It's nothing to do with having a night out, meeting up with friends, whatever. And sometimes it's not to do with napping during the day at all. They just have awful sleeping patterns for no particular reason, or that they know of. But is there ways to improve our sleeping patterns just
Well,
easily?
yeah, well, the first thing is routine, really. Having the same bedtime and wake up time every single day, including weekends. Going back to what I said about the sleep cycles, I said 4 or 5 cycles. So that's anything from 6 to 7.5 hours sleep. I think if you stick to that, I mean, I think waking up at the same time every day, I think is key, and getting sunlight immediately as soon as you can for as much as the day, because that helps support your circadian rhythm, your body clock, because it's driven by sunlight mostly. Food intake at the right time, and obviously your hormones and movement. But yeah, getting the best sleep, I think key to that is going to bed and waking up at the same time every day, as much as you can on the weekends. Don't drink alcohol heavily before bed. Caffeine, stop 7, 8 hours before you want to try to sleep. I mean, for me, lunchtime is my limit. I'm very sensitive to caffeine. Everyone's different. Some people can drink coffee just before bed. I myself can't do that. They're the rare ones. But just keeping on top of your sleep hygiene. So coffee, so alcohol. Alcohol, as we all know, is a sedative. We all get knocked out by alcohol, but it does disrupt your slow wave sleep, so your deep sleep later on in the night, which means that your growth hormone and your body repair is going to be suboptimal, hence why you feel so tired and just awful the next day, i.e. a hangover. So I think that's a massive one to get right. Light throughout the night, that can disrupt your sleep without you knowing. It could bring you up into the lighter stages of sleep. You won't be consciously aware of it, but it means you're not in your deeper stages. So that would be sleep hygiene, yeah, and routine, and not having not engaging in wakeful activities in the space that's meant for sleeping. So if you are having problems sleeping, do everything outside of the bedroom, reading, meditating, even working, exercising, everything. Your bedroom should be a protected space that is only for sleep, intimacy, and getting dressed and undressed. If you protect your sleeping space, you've got more chance of sleeping in there, if that's what you do in there all the time.
I know sleep hygiene is a massive issue now throughout the entire world. It's not just here. And obviously in this day and age, people are looking at their phones all night, going through TikTok, going through Instagram, going through Facebook, getting that blue light, sleeping next to their phones, sleeping with the curtains open, taking in street light, and having all these devices around them. And there's devices all around the room. And it is becoming an issue, and it's definitely going to get worse as technology evolves, because I'm guessing the more our houses do get smarter, if you're willing to create a smart house, then these electronics are going to be around you constantly. And the worse, or the more they build up a smart house, the worse I'm guessing it's going to get for the individual.
I mean, sleep hygiene is something to get right. If you have got, say, chronic insomnia, I think it's important to nail the sleep hygiene so there's nothing disrupting us, so we can concentrate on the mind. But I think for normal, so I don't want to say normal, for sleepers who don't have a problem getting to sleep, I think sleep hygiene shouldn't be taken massively seriously. I mean, obviously, I think caffeine is a huge one, and alcohol is a huge one. In terms of standby lights on devices in the room, I think if that's the only thing happening, to just that's affecting, say, your checklist for sleep hygiene, I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think if you stress about the small things, then that's just going to keep you awake by itself anyway. In terms of the radiation from these things, or the energy, if you like, I don't know enough about it. I mean, I don't have a smart home, and I've not read any studies about the impact of smart homes. However, my advice would be take it out of the room if you can, cover it up. I don't know if it's that smart. I'm sure it's got a setting on there that can change, so the light doesn't have to be on all the time. I mean, but yeah, these little lights on clocks and things, I wouldn't worry too much about it. cover them up if you can. If you have got serious problems sleeping, then yeah, try and nail your sleep hygiene. But if you're a sleeper that doesn't have any problems with sleep effort, then I wouldn't get hung up on it.
I think the biggest issue is probably phones these days more than
Mm.
anything,
Oh yeah.
because people are very, very attached, very addicted. And
Yeah.
once you go on something like, let's say, TikTok, and you scroll, you intend to be on there 1 minute. 3 hours later, you're still there scrolling in like a void of ridiculousness and memes. And it is great. It's a
I
great
know.
little app. It's fun, but when it starts taking over as well, and you're then bringing that into the bedroom, you're constantly on it, and you're constantly watching, you're constantly consuming. That there's going to be a point where people will need to realize that it is that starting to affect their day-to-day life as well. Because I know for some people, I know people that have been fired because they can't get off TikTok while at work. And I'm guessing, like, if that's an issue throughout work where you can get fired because of it, then that's also going to become an issue when you come into your own house and when you're trying to sleep. And it is a minefield.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that technology is so addictive. I mean, I think that's what it's made for. I won't quote any studies, but there are some studies out there about the effects it has on you. And those little, those red icons that scream at you on your phone to say, "Look at me, open this app." It's all designed very well. But I think if you're so addicted that you're getting fired from your job, I think there are bigger issues that need to be addressed.
I don't think it's just the sleep.
No, but I mean, generally, the social media is just an escape, really, isn't it? It's escape, and it's an addiction as well. So, I guess you've then got to question what it is you're escaping. If you wanted to look at it that deeply, the addiction side you don't really have control of unless you actually physically remove the device. I mean, you can set limits now on iPhone and probably all phones to what time you can use that app up until. So you just have to be super strict with yourself, set limits, or only use those apps in a wakeful space, not a sleeping space.
That's the
It
thing that
really, really
I now try to, whenever using an app or a phone, if it's towards the time I want to sleep, I will try
Mhm.
to reduce any time that is in the bedroom or
Yeah,
just beforehand, because I know what I'm like as well. Like
yeah.
if I get consumed into something, I will become very addicted. I have one of those addictive personalities. That once I'm in there, it's happened. Like
Right.
like an hour later, I'll still be there. 2 hours later, I'll still be there scrolling. I'll be on Facebook, I'll be on Instagram, and then I start worrying about different things. Like business wise, I'm just like, oh, I should have replied to this now. Next thing I
Mhm.
know, I've consumed so much that I then can't sleep myself. So I think I had to put restrictions on myself in probably the last year, especially through the pandemic, because it was
Mhm.
just it was an escape from whatever was going on in the world. So it's kind of like,
Yeah.
we're going to do whatever to escape, and then obviously realized that that was then affecting how I was sleeping. I was kind of like, so I need to set limits now. So it's normally like an hour before bed, unless it's absolutely vital, absolutely important that I need to be doing it.
Yeah.
Which normally 9 times out of 10, it's not.
How do you decide how important something is?
Well,
Like what
it's
what
more if it's an emergency. If somebody's ringing me at like 9 at night, then I feel
yeah.
like there's probably a reason for it.
Oh yeah. Calls,
Yeah,
yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Apart from that, like, emails can wait to the next day. If you're emailing me at 9 o'clock, you're not going to get a response anyway.
yeah. Yeah.
The same with any kind of people DMing me for advice on nutrition at 10 at night.
Yeah.
You're not going to get it. You'll get it in the morning, and I think it's just setting those limits and boundaries for yourself. So if you don't
Yeah.
have those, then it's just going to be a whirlwind of what then is more important. Like,
Mhm.
you have to set that importance to yourself.
Yes. Oh, 100%. Yeah. If it's important to you, then you'll change something.
Yeah.
You have to
And
change
I feel like if
something.
you don't have those limits, then you're just going to go down the path of what is that what if something not so urgent is then a matter of urgency for you, then what is something that is urgent? Is that going to be like a
Mhm.
crisis in that
Yeah.
time? So it's just respecting your own boundaries, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, there is a technique I teach my clients, which is called constructive worry. So what I ask them to do, and anyone can use this at any point, is you get a piece of paper, 3 columns. The first column is your good column, second is your bad, and the third is your to do. And in your good column, you write down everything great that happened that day, or everything you're excited about, just all great things. It could be anything simple from there was no traffic on the way to work, or I don't know, I hit a target at work, or it could be something big, like I booked my holiday, I'm so excited. And then bad things could be had a falling out with my boss, got stuck in traffic, I was late for work, didn't enjoy my lunch today, received some bad news. It could be anything. And then your to do list is just your normal to do list, like I've got to pay that bill tomorrow, bins go out, I've got this appointment. And then what you do is you go back to your good list column and you write down in your to do list anything you can do tomorrow to uplift, extend, remind you of those good things that happened today. So, say it was, I don't know, you saw a friend at work, or let's say you had lunch with a friend today, and that was your good thing of today. What you could do tomorrow is message that friend, arrange to have another lunch in a couple of weeks' time. Or the good thing could be there was no traffic today. I don't know, tomorrow do the same route. And then with your bad list column, you write down in your to-do list one realistically achievable step you can make to alleviate that problem that you had today. So maybe it was you had a falling out with your boss. Maybe tomorrow simply send an email to arrange a meeting to discuss the problems. Or you received bad news. Tomorrow you could reach out to a friend to discuss this bad news. And then with your to-do list column completely done is you award each point with how essential it is. So it could the most important ones, the essential ones, could be red, and then you could have desirable, which could be orange. I mean, I use the color coding system, and then your other ones could be optional. So you have to prioritize which ones, and it only gets an essential badge if something awful is going to happen, something bad's going to happen if you don't do that. So it means that you've got all of your worries out of your head for the day and they're on paper, and you've already decided which ones of those you're going to address tomorrow and in what order. So later on when you're gone to bed, hopefully your worries won't be as exaggerated because you've already expressed them on paper and you've got a plan for how you're going to address them tomorrow. That's top tip.
That's some good advice. I've never really thought of it like that, or to do it like that. And I think that could be very beneficial as well, especially with people just kind of having worries about certain things on day-to-day lives. To be fair, like I know I have in the past, and having something where I can write it down in that kind of in 3 stages as such, probably would work wonders for me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good. Yeah, it's a pretty cool technique. So simple, but so clever.
So I'm guessing as like a sleep consultant, you probably have some very strict sleep hygiene rules for yourself. I'd imagine so. I also say this, and everybody thinks I have some very strict nutrition things for myself. But yeah, we can all have down days. We all have little muck ups and downfalls, and we're not all perfect. But obviously, do you have? I'm guessing you must have sleep hygiene rules within the bedroom.
Yes. So first of all, the coffee. I mean, my absolute limit is probably 2 p.m. I'll stop drinking coffee because I know I get really affected by it. So I'm quite hot on or any caffeine actually. I'm very hot on that. So that's a strict one for me. There's no getting out of that one. Lighting, my bedroom is pretty dark apart from the curtains are white, so they do let in outside light, but I live in quite a good area that's not too lit up, but it doesn't bother me. Sound, noise, I don't need earplugs. It's very quiet in my area. I do have a fan on at night. That's more for my partner's benefit than myself. But white noise apparently helps with sleep, and it certainly doesn't disrupt mine, and I'm not any more tired. So there's some benefits there. I reckon it's quite relaxing. Um, and then what other things for sleep hygiene? It basically comes down to lighting, noise, coffee. I mean, alcohol. Obviously, I drink alcohol, and I do pay for the effects of it the next day. But it's not something I use to help me sleep. It's more of a social thing, as I'm sure it is for most people. And then food. So I wouldn't have a heavy meal before I go to bed, or just before I go to bed. I myself, I mean, everyone's different. If I eat and then immediately go to bed, I'd probably experience some bit of acid reflux. But because I know me and how I work, I know what my limits are. Um, Carbohydrates do advance your circadian rhythm, so they make you sleepy, and protein delays it. So protein is good for the morning, or protein heavy meal, and a carbohydrate heavy meal in the evening. Other sleep hygienes, I wouldn't have too much sugar before I go to bed. No stimulating or excitable or sad conversations before bed, not allowed. And there's of course no TV in the bedroom for me. Phones, I do scroll in bed. I'm one of those, but not often at all. And how many hours sleep do I get during the week when I'm working? Somewhere between 7 and 8. The weekends probably longer. But I know my absolute limit, my minimum is 6, but I don't do that often. I try not to. I feel the effects from only having 6 hours. I do need 7.5, 8 hours to feel, good. Yeah. So yeah, we all break the rules, and on the weekends as well. I mean, probably go to bed a bit later and wake up later. Not a huge difference, but so yes, sleep hygiene I think is important if you're having problems with sleep, but it's not the be all and end all for healthy sleep. I think an overall healthy lifestyle is what you need, and that comes down to nutrition, movement, and sleep, and just picking up what you can out of all those 3 areas. Because if you worry too much about it, then it could create more problems.
I think as well, like creating a better environment for you to sleep in also helps.
Yes.
Because I like for years I had what I would call the world's worst mattress, and had a lot of springs sticking out of it, and I didn't seem to mind. But obviously the environment that you're in as well as sleep hygiene probably helps, obviously, with comfort as well. If you're not comfortable, you're not going to sleep. Like some people like soft mattresses, some people like hard, firm mattresses. Everybody's down to their own kind of opinions.
Mhm.
But environment-wise, what would you say is the best to sleep in, or is there a best, or is it just down to personal perspective?
It literally is down to personal choice, really. I mean, you know your own body. You know if you prefer a firm or a soft, or if you want memory foam or springs. Um, but what I would remind everyone is obviously we spend a third of our life in bed. So don't skimp on your mattresses, don't skimp on your luxury bed sheets. If that's what makes you happy, comfortable, and cozy, then by all means get it. Because we spend a third of our life doing it, a third of every day we spend roughly in bed, depending on how many hours you're getting. So I think it's well worth investing in a mattress that works for you, bed sheets that make you feel happy, make you feel cozy, pillows that support you in the way that you want to be supported, pajamas if that's your thing, whatever it is, make it the best, because you spend a third of your life doing it. So I think it's well worth investing in the best that you possibly can.
I think as well, when it comes to mattresses, people will. Well, it's obviously down to like your finances, but people will be like, "Oh, is it worth spending, like, let's say £1,000 for this mattress?" And the way I do look at it is the fact that you're going to sleep every night for like what, not 8 9 hours, 7 9 hours, and then if you, let's say, you spend £1,000 and that lasts 10 years, and then the amount of divided by 365, like over 10 years, over how many, whatever. And then you really narrow that down to how much you're actually spending per night to sleep, and it's absolute pennies. It
Yeah,
comes on like 0.01 of a penny per night
exactly.
for every hour, for every day, for every year that you sleep for like 10 years. And
Yeah.
you may be good. You might get a mattress for like, let's say 20 years.
Mm.
Um, and you were spending basically nothing. But I think it's that initial kind of, oh,
Yeah.
I don't want to spend that £1,000. I don't want to
Hmm.
spend that 500. Obviously, this is all down to your finances, what you can afford, or
Hmm.
like the comfort that you can afford. But if you do have the option to, you have to think of it like that. On if you're going to have this for 10 years, and the amount you're going to be sleeping in it, and if you work it down to how much it actually costs to have an hour's and a good night's sleep,
Yeah.
it's going to be pennies. It's not going to be more than 5-6p a night.
Exactly, it's nothing, but it's also worth mentioning that you don't necessarily need to go out and spend £1,000 on a mattress if the mattress you've already got is comfortable for you. So I think if you've got a comfortable bed, great. This isn't about getting the most expensive bed,
Hmm.
because it will guarantee comfort. But it's just, if the most comfortable bed to you does cost £1,000, by all means invest if you can do that. But if you're comfortable, great. I mean, my bed is, I've got cushions all over it. I don't sleep with the cushions, but they're there because it makes me happy. That's my thing. I've got cushions, a throw, nice sheets. It's nicely decorated space, because I think your space that you're sleeping in, it's got to make you feel good. If you feel great climbing into it, then you've got more of a chance of getting a good night's sleep. You need everything
My
working for
mattress, I actually brought on Groupon.
you.
And it was just something for the time being while I was kind of like moving around. I was like, it's gonna be something small. It's not something I'm gonna have forever. And it's one of the comfiest mattresses that I've ever spent £100 on.
Exactly, great. So there we go.
Which very much, it did surprise me at first. It was very hard, and then over
Yeah.
time it's just got comfier, and now it's kind of like there's a Callum shaped hole in it. It's great. And I'm getting the most out of it. But for like £100, and I've had that, what, 5 years now, I'm basically spending, when you narrow it down to, like, the pennies that you're spending, it's basically free.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Totally worth it.
It really is. But for instance, let's say, like, someone living in like London or maybe New York, it's very, very compact, it's very loud. People are living in studio flats where it is literally just a room with like a bed in a corner, a kitchen, sometimes the toilet's in the same room,
Yeah.
all in a few kind of square meters. So obviously you want to kind of differentiate between your bedroom, your kitchen, your toilet, and also you want to differentiate where you're working to your
Hmm.
bedroom, because
Yeah.
it's not going to be great. How do you get around these circumstances? Is there good ways to get around it? Because I feel like
Well,
once you're in that same kind of
yeah.
space, it's never going to be comfortable, and there's always going to be something going on.
Yeah. Well, the way I do it, because I'm in a one bedroom flat, so I mean, I'm lucky enough to have my bedroom separate from my living room, my kitchen, and my bathroom. But in terms of exercise, working, eating, relaxing, it's all done in my living room. So, for instance, what I do is I work and I eat on the table, but I sit in a different chair for each activity. So I've got one chair that I will only do my work in, and then a different, like a normal dining room chair, is what I'll eat on. So simple things like that just changes my mindset completely to the task I'm doing. Because if I sat on my dining chair and tried to work, I don't think I would be as focused. So I think if you're living in a studio flat and your bed is your sofa, when you're it during the day, set it up like a sofa, have cushions, maybe have a throw on it, make it a different color, maybe have different things up, you have different lights on. And then when you want to go to bed, all those cushions go, the throw over goes, the color of it changes because the throw over is not there, and you've got different lights on winding you down for bed. Then that's the best way you can change your environment so it goes from daytime to nighttime. I mean, I think one of the professors who taught me about sleep, he was contracted to go into prison and talk to the inmates, and obviously they can't go anywhere else, so they've only got their bed, they haven't really got a room. So he would say, during the day you face one end of the bed and you read that way or do whatever activity it is, but when you want to sleep, your head goes at the other end of the bed. It's just basically just simple things you can do like that to just change how you feel about your space from daytime to nighttime.
And that kind of mind separation from,
Yeah.
although it's the same building, the same space, just kind of.
Yeah, visibly and physically feeling
Mm,
different. Yeah.
that must have been an experience for him, to be fair, going to a prison and having to
Yeah.
deal with the sleep patterns of inmates.
Yeah. Yeah. Tough one.
Like, realistically, like, how long should it actually take us to fall asleep? Like, on a good day, on a good, like, if let's say you don't have any kind of insomnia, you don't have any sleeping issues, because for me, it can be seconds. Sometimes it can be seconds, and so sometimes it can be minutes, it can be hours, but like a realistic time frame for the majority of people, what is realistic?
Well, what I would say is falling asleep shouldn't feel like an effort.
Mm,
So I think if you're thinking about how long it's taking you to fall asleep, then that means there's sleep effort. So it shouldn't be straight away either, because it might mean you're sleep deprived. So it's a healthy balance between not falling asleep immediately and being awake so long that you start thinking about how long you've been awake for or not sleeping for. One of the techniques I do give my clients is called the 15-minute rule. If it feels like 15 minutes has passed and you've not slept, then I would say get out of bed, do a wakeful activity in a waking space before coming back to bed and trying again. And when I say feels like, I mean don't clock watch. Because if you're laying there for 5 minutes now, I can't sleep. I'll look at the time. Okay, it's been 5 minutes. Right, another 10 minutes. I wonder if I can get to sleep. Then that's just going to keep you awake for longer. So as I said before, sleep is subjective. It's how you feel about it. So if you feel like you're trying to sleep, or you're feeling like it's been too long and wondering how many minutes it's been, then that's when you need to be getting out of bed. But if you're not thinking about the time when you're falling asleep, then you haven't got a problem.
yeah, because I always did wonder that, because there's a bit like, for instance, my dad, he can just kind of lay on a sofa and he's gone within seconds, and I'm just like, how is that a thing? And I know sometimes I can obviously crawl into bed, fall asleep. Whereas normally I'd say there's probably, I don't know, it doesn't feel like effort. It's more of a kind of maybe 5-10 minutes just kind of getting comfortable. And then all
Mm-hmm.
of a sudden just you kind of drift off, don't you? It's not kind of
Yeah.
it's just a drift. And then some days I'll be laying there for a long time. But it does surprise me when I see some people just falling asleep on, especially on a sofa, because it's not comfortable. Like you lay, and then the head all kind of like
I know. Yeah.
crunched over, and I'm just like, how is that? How is that available for you to actually do that on? Because I couldn't. I don't find any comfort. Even just laying there, not trying to sleep, is uncomfortable on a sofa sometimes, and people just it blows my mind.
I know. I guess for those people, there could be an element of sleep deprivation there. Maybe that's why they're so tired. Um, I don't know. Maybe I'd question whether they snore at night, whether they got sleep apnea, things like that. But or it could be the opposite. Maybe they do have insomnia in the bedroom, but if they sleep somewhere else because they don't associate it with being
Hmm.
awake, they fall asleep easily. You find that a lot with people with chronic insomnia. They can fall asleep anywhere else, but not their bedroom, because that's where their mind buzzes.
I actually I saw an article. I think it might be in BuzzFeed. So it's not science backed in any way, shape, or form. Um, on how to sleep the best.
Right.
And when I say the best, what position of is best for your body? And in my head, it's probably whatever feels comfortable for you. But
Mm-hmm.
obviously, like laying on your back, laying on your front, laying in a L shape, starfishing, being in a fetal position. Um, is there a best way, or it is just personal preference?
I would say mostly it's personal preference. I mean, I sleep all the ways, back, front, side.
Yeah, this is exactly the same with me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it just comes down to comfort. But I think if you've got sleep apnea and you snore, don't be sleeping on your back. Sleep on your side, or even your front. Probably your side is the best. Really, side's the best way to sleep, I think. But because it's better for your anatomy, if you like. Because when you're on your back, your tongue falls backwards and you snore. And if you're snoring, you're obstructing your airway. If you're obstructing your airway, you're not getting a lot of oxygen in. If you're not getting a lot of oxygen in, then you wake up. That's essentially sleep apnea. But people who snore, it still have the same effect, and you could be tired. But as I said, yeah, preference. I mean, it's its own personal preference, really. However you feel good, you might have certain niggles in your body that mean you can't sleep on your front or you can't sleep on your side. So, oh no, I'm not going to get good sleep. Any way that feels good for you. But if you snore, avoid sleeping on your back.
Thing was when I saw this article, I was like, and they were in their head, they were like, this is like backed by a scientist. I was like, is it though? Like, you have to question his credentials here. But I could just take that face value without researching into this at all and be like, oh yeah, so if I sleep in an L shape, I'm gonna get a better sleep. But there was positions upon positions in this article. I think there was like 20 different ones. I was like, to be fair, I would say I probably do all 20 of those in one night something.
Exactly. I mean, it's completely normal to move around in your
Yes.
sleep anyway. I mean, with REM, obviously your body's paralyzed essentially to stop you acting out your dreams. But in non-REM, you can be moving all over the place. It's totally normal. Otherwise, you'd get numb. You'd press it. You'd be pressing on a nerve possibly. It's quite normal to move. You can't stay in one position anyway.
So I have had those nights. I think everybody I've ever spoken to has had those nights where you're having a dream, you stumble off a curb or something like that, and you jump, and you're very much awake. What is that?
If it's the one at the beginning of the night, do you mean?
Yeah, so it feels like the beginning, like you just have a little wander, fall off a curb, fall off something, and next thing you know, you've been like, and
yeah,
like, and it's when you've got a really good comfortable sleep as well. That's the worst thing.
yeah,
It's when you've got really comfortable, and that's when it happens.
yeah.
Yeah, what is that?
It's called a hypnic jerk. So it's a sleep start essentially. So it's very normal. There's nothing wrong with it. I think if you're getting them quite a lot, you could be sleep deprived, where you're falling quite quickly into your deeper stages of sleep, or maybe there's a degree of anxiety there. Where it came from, though, it depends on where you stand in terms of evolution, but it's suggested that it's an archaic reflex from when our ancestors used to live in trees, a way of checking if the environment was safe. You drift off and then your body wakes up to make sure it's safe, and then you fall back into your deeper sleep. And also being on a tree, you might not be stable. Apparently, again, it depends.
I imagine the sleep hygiene there wasn't great.
No,
If you're sleeping on a tree branch and worrying about falling out of bed.
Although they would be going to sleep when it's dark and waking up when it's light, so there's going to be no light interference and probably sound either.
They didn't have phones back then either, so
yeah, exactly.
Just the worry of falling off a branch at night time.
Exactly, I think they got it right, didn't they? But anyway, apparently that's where it comes from. As I say, it depends on where you stand with that. But either way, all you need to know is it's perfectly normal. If you're getting them a lot, then it could be sleep deprivation or anxiety. So it'd be good to look at those.
So let's talk melatonin.
Okay.
I don't think many people, even me, I know basics, not much. And most people aren't aware of what it does. I mean, some people know of it, but obviously I feel my knowledge on it is very, very basic. But what is melatonin? Because obviously this is a hormone, but there's also a second hormone, isn't there, that's produced with sleep. And I know I'm gonna absolutely butcher this word, but is it gamma amino buttrick? That's not right. That can't be it.
Well, you're close. I have trouble pronouncing it too. GABA amino butyric acid.
So these are the two hormones that are they released during sleep?
Well, there's a lot of hormones. So yeah, you've got growth hormone, melatonin, and GABA.
Hmm.
So they're sleep promoting hormones, and then you've got the opposites. You've got your wakefulness promoting hormones. You've got noradrenaline, dopamine, histamine, serotonin, orexin, leptin, ghrelin, and acetylcholine. So you've got, and then you've got cortisol as well. So you've got lots of things going on in there. So it just, what I like to tell people about these is not necessarily, you don't need to know what the hormones are, but you just need to respect and understand, I guess, that there's so many different things going on in your body that you're not aware of. So your body is perfectly capable of sleeping and waking at the right times. You've just got to feed it the right ingredients, light, dark, eating at the right times, not having too much coffee or alcohol. But apart from that, your body knows how to do it. So anything outside of that that's stopping you from sleeping will be your mind, which is easily retrained or reprogrammed, if you like, refocused to get better sleep. But so lots of hormones, to do with sleep. So growth hormone is released over 24 hours, but you get the largest pulse of it in your first phase of slow wave sleep, so your deep sleep. So teenagers have a lot of growth hormone. Melatonin is known as the hormone of darkness, which is inhibited by light. And it also affects your body temperature, which reduces at night as well. And then you've got GABA, which reduces mental and physical stress. I mean, I won't through all of the other hormones because there's quite a lot, but we spoke briefly before, didn't we, about leptin and ghrelin? So leptin is the satiety hormone, so you won't telling you how full you are, and then ghrelin, which is telling you how hungry you are. So it's important to hit all your stages of sleep so you get all the right release of hormones to help set you up for the next 24 hours.
Yeah, I feel like if nutrition wasn't bad enough of trying to focus on every different nutrient, then every different hormone when it comes to sleep is there's a whole other minefield of just
It literally is a mind.
knowledge.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've looked into nutrition over the years, but there's so much, and you end up getting more worried about it. Am I getting the right amount of this
Yeah.
micronutrient and that micronutrient? And never mind, fat, carbs, and protein. I can just about manage those, but
That's the
it's a
thing. I think whatever subject you delve into, the list gets longer, and there's still things I'm finding out now, and I'm probably assuming it's probably the same for you, that
yeah, there
whenever
always is.
science changes, or
Yeah,
no, science doesn't change, but when the
new
the
study.
the study changes, then you're finding out more. You're finding that there's like a new nutrient, or you're finding there's
Mhm.
like a new hormone for you, and
Yeah.
it's like, and then you feel like it's a whole new learning process again. Like you feel like
Yes.
you're back to square one. You're like, oh, I thought I knew it all, but now I don't.
Yeah, there's more to learn here. Yeah, there's a lot. Very
So I
interesting.
think before we round this off, we're going to go into the myths and truths. So I'm just going to throw in a few. I'm just going to
Okay.
throw in a few that I found online. I've asked a few people I know
Mhm.
as well of what they think is a truth as
Yeah.
such, and I want to know if it is actually a truth or
Okay.
it's a complete myth.
Okay. Go for it. Hit me with them.
So I feel like the first one, we already know it's going to be a myth. Hopefully, alcohol being good for your sleep.
Yeah, as I said, it's great. It helps you fall asleep. So it's a sedative, but it disrupts your slow wave sleep, which is why you feel groggy, tired, and just awful the next day. So no, it's does not help you with good quality sleep.
Giving up caffeine completely.
No, I mean, so the half life of caffeine is about 8 to 9 hours. So that means that half its potency is in your body 8 hours after drinking it. So if I drink it at 2 o'clock, then half of it will be out my system by 10 p.m. But that's only half of it. So the rest of it is still floating around my system when I'm asleep. How much it affects your quality of sleep? I mean, you'd be more tired when you went to bed if you didn't have any coffee at all. So I think if you're one of those people who's particularly sensitive to caffeine, maybe consider trying not drinking it for about a week, maybe see what happens. But you know, if you don't have problems with sleep, then basic sleep hygiene would be to stop caffeine consumption about 8 hours before you want to go to sleep. So at least half its strength when you go to bed.
So myth-ish.
Yeah, myth-ish. Yeah.
Myth-ish. If I sleep less during the week, I can sleep more at the weekend.
That's binge sleeping, just as bad as binge eating. We all do it. But no, if you want the best quality sleep and you want your body clock to work for you, then same bedtime, same wake time, give or take an hour every day is the best. But no, I wouldn't be getting your 5-6 hours during the week and then 10 hours on the weekend, because then it makes it harder for Monday, doesn't it? Because if you go to bed late Friday, wake up late Saturday, go to bed late Saturday and wake up late Sunday, your sleep pressure hasn't had a chance to build Sunday for you to go to bed at a reasonable time to get up for work on Monday. So fine tuning needs to happen if you're going to sleep more at the weekend.
Yeah, I would say I'm very good at that one. What's it called? Having the same routine. I'm a very early sleeper, so I sleep at like 10 and I will wake up at 6, and it's near enough the same even at weekends.
Well done.
Yeah, it's not bad. I feel like I get good sleep, ish. On occasions it changes. Quantity of sleep over quality of sleep.
Oh, it's a bit both really, because like I said, you've got different things happening in your sleep throughout the whole night. So quality and quantity kind of come together, because you want that between 6 and 7.5 hours, so 4 cycles or 5 cycles. So that comes into quantity because I'm telling you how many hours, and then your quality of sleep is also important as well, because you want to get all the phases of sleep in and all the different levels and depths. So also, I wouldn't say that having 8 hours over the whole day is good, because it doesn't mean that one phase follows the other with a 2-hour gap in between, i.e. napping. So napping isn't a replacement for sleep, because with napping, you only reach the first 2 levels of sleep, so non-REM 1 and then non-REM 2, and you just wave in and out of that. Too long napping, obviously you're going to hit one whole cycle, but you need more than that. You need your 5 cycles. So that's a hard one to answer. Quantity, quality, both good. You need both of them.
Picture of both, bit of mythish again.
Yeah, because like if you had 4 hours of solid sleep, you're only going to be getting mostly non-REM sleep, and you're not going to get much REM, which you need for memory consolidation. So yeah, both together.
Your body gets used to less sleep.
I think you learn to cope with less sleep. You have more coping mechanisms. Maybe you nap, maybe you supplement with caffeine, maybe you have alcohol to help you go to sleep. I think you learn to cope with what you've got, but I don't think that's necessarily a good thing, because there could be long-term health impacts with that. Because obviously if you're not getting as much sleep, it's going to affect your hormones, might affect your eating habits, stress levels, focus, increased risk of cardiovascular disease, all sorts of things. But you won't notice them when you're in your peak. You're busy, you're working your 9 to 5, and you're going out after work, and you're surviving on 5 hours sleep. There may be implications later on down the line. So I think it's good to just get in your sleep now consistently.
I think the next one we've already answered throughout this whole episode, which is you need less than 5 hours sleep. I think that's just a quick fire myth.
Yeah, that's shocking. No. Yeah, 4 to 5 cycles, so 6 to 7.5 hours sleep is where you need to be at.
You sleep more with age.
No, less with age. You get a lot less REM sleep with age. Yeah, it declines over the years. So you start off, as a child needing 16, 17 hours sleep, sorry, as a baby, but as as time goes on, you need less, you gain less REM sleep. You don't sleep as much.
I've noticed that old people, I say old people, I don't mean old people. No, I
People
kind
of
of
all
do. It's
stages.
hard to, but they always wake up at ridiculously stupid times and like, oh, I started my day at 4 today. I'm like, why? Like, oh, it's up at 5. I'm like, why? There is no need. But they're just like, oh yeah, I went to bed like at like 12. They woke up at like 4 or 5, and they're like, just time to get on with my day. I'm like, why is this an occurring thing with all old people I've met? When, but I feel like when I say the word old people, I'm putting all people over the age of a certain age into a category. I don't mean that, guys. Um, exercising at night disturbs sleep.
It depends on how intense it is. I mean, I wouldn't recommend a marathon before bed or doing your PBs on your squat rack. I would say avoid heavy exercise about 2 to 3 hours before bed, because it releases all sorts of happy hormones, which is great, but also adrenaline too. So you need time for your body and your mind to calm down before you can start thinking about sleeping again. So some exercise is good, definitely make you tired, but anything too intense will just get you too excited and adrenaline pumping, which isn't good for sleep. And then of course, the more intense it is, the more hungry you'll be. So you need to be able to be eating at a reasonable time after the exercise for it to go down for sleep. You don't want your tummy active and working on digesting food when you want your body to be concentrating on sleeping. So.
Last one. Sleeping with the light on is harmless.
Depends how many lights you got on. You can get not non-blue light wave emitting bulbs. I got one myself actually. So if you really must have a light on in your bedroom, then just get one that's not blue light emitting. I mean, I would always recommend to everyone to not have any lights on, because although it's not blue light wave emitting, it could still confuse you with the melatonin release, because it's light. So I think if you have got problems with sleep, I think, as I say, ticking as many things off that sleep hygiene list as possible before delving into the mind stuff, I think is key. But a night light, if you must have, then yeah, get one that's not blue light emitting.
I feel like I've learned a lot from today's podcast. Actually, I came in thinking I knew quite a lot about sleep, but it turns out very, very little. Very, very
We're all
little.
still
I
learning.
feel
We're all
like
still
I feel like I've learned. I hope everybody listening's also learned a lot, and obviously I can have things that we know are now going to improve our lifestyle and our sleep patterns. So I think we're going to round this off. So Sam, it was a absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure too. Thank you, Callum. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.